Hello, everybody. I don't know what time it is where you are, but here it's 5:40 p.m. Are all of you worried about your candidate's chances? So, 400 people. When we get a few more on, we'll get serious. So I just came back from the BBC. Gave a little interview there that's being recorded and edited now, and will run at 8 o'clock here on BBC NewsHour radio. And I think that means, if I've done my math correctly this time, which I didn't do on my blog the first time, it should be around 3 o'clock Eastern time, United States. So New York time would be about 3 o'clock, and then I guess that means 3 hours earlier on the West Coast. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I will come back, but not right away. As a 44-year-old woman, she's a little sad that I'm dating someone her daughter's age. I'm going to keep the blog comments closed, at least through the election. All right. So the big question everybody's asking me is, do I still think that Donald Trump will win in a landslide? I'll say this. If nothing changes, no, he will not. So the question is, will anything change? And the answer is probably lots of things. There's probably about 12 more twists and turns here, so we don't know what's going to happen between now and then. But remember, my original prediction was based on... I like the people who just get on here to just say, fuck you. It's like, I've solved all my other problems. I think I'll just do that now. So remember, the original prediction of a Trump win was based on his powers of persuasion, and those being the biggest variable. Now, under any normal conditions, that would be a pretty comfortable prediction. But you don't really expect somebody to come up with a secret recording. You really don't see that one coming. So, the prediction of a win was never insulated against, some weird outside force that has nothing to do with politics as usual. And now it's kind of boiled down to only that. So, my guess is that you're going to see some stuff out of the Trump side that will be pretty dark, as they say. I think he's gonna hit her hard. Yeah, it's black swans all over the place. So here's a question I'm going to put to you. There has been much hand-wringing and pearl-clutching about Trump's words on that tape. I have so far heard, this is just anecdotal, so I'm not putting any weight on it, and I'll put it in the form of a question. It's the same question I asked a couple days ago when the tape came out. I've heard of one person who was pro-Trump who changed her mind because of it. And I heard of one person who saw the debate and changed his mind to Trump. But other than that, I haven't heard anybody changing in person. I haven't heard of anybody who changed their vote. Now, the polls show that something's happening. But, well, we don't know if people are just parking their vote with Gary Johnson the way I am. Well, I'm not voting at all, but it just feels safer to say you support Gary Johnson, because if you support either Clinton or Trump, you can be branded as someone who's supporting sexual abuse, because even though Hillary Clinton is not accused of that, she's accused of enabling it, and obviously you'd be, if she's elected, you'd be putting an alleged rapist in the White House. So either way you go, you got an alleged rapist, an alleged sexual abuser, or a sexual abuser or enabler. So those are our two choices. We're down to that. Yeah, so let me put it to you. Have any of you heard personally, and most of you probably know a lot of Trump supporters, because I think most of you are, have any of you heard anybody change their mind? But you wouldn't know, yeah. No. I mean, how many no's do we have to get before that sounds credible? Yeah, this is far from being any kind of a scientific survey here. But don't you think one of us would have heard somebody in person who said, yeah, I got to change my vote? I mean, not one. What's that tell you? Now, I realize the people on this, well, even Ryan didn't change his vote. He just said he's going to stop saying good things about him. It's the same thing I said. You know, I had to run away from the blast zone. So here's an interesting thing, and I guess I'd put it in terms of a prediction. This is the first time in history that people's private thoughts are broadcast to the world. Now, we don't have all of their private thoughts, but the leaked tape was really private thoughts. The WikiLeaks are largely private thoughts. And we've pretty much come down to making our decisions based on what we believe are their private thoughts. Do you remember last year when I told you that policies and facts wouldn't matter? Do you remember you probably laughed and said, oh, that's ridiculous, because obviously the policies is what we vote on. When was the last time you heard of a fucking policy? All right? Is that in the news? Have you heard anybody say, hey, I thought about it a little bit more, and now that I've looked at their web pages and I've read the details of their policy, I really like this one policy over here better than this other one, so I think I'll go that way. It just doesn't happen. So both sides have now completely abandoned any pretense that policies have anything to do with anything. You know, for a while, Clinton was pretending and Trump was pretending a little bit, but you know, a lot less. Yeah, you can't trust the focus groups though totally, because they're obviously a small, unrepresentative sample. But it is, even with an unscientific sample, it's remarkable to get that many people on the same side. You watch the news until they start talking policy. Well, it's a true story. I once shared a car with Frank Luntz. We were coming back from, we both gave a paid speech, this is years ago, paid speech to a billionaire. I won't mention who it is, but and nobody you've heard of, but somebody who controls a large part of the media. Not as much as Rupert Murdoch, but a billionaire in the media realm. That's all you need to know. So we both did a paid speech for his organization, and we shared a car back, and I'm pretty sure he did not know who Dilbert was. But you can't make too much out of the focus group because it's a small number of people. Saudi Prince, Carlos Sims. No, it wasn't Carlos. You think, has Trump actually groped a woman? Has anybody come forward to say that yet? I may have missed it, so that's not a statement. Yes, where's Nene? My neighbor. She's right here.
Right here.
Say
background. You don't have to show me. Here.
Say hi.
Hi.
All right. Jeb Bush is Billy Bush's uncle? Wait, what? That's not true, is it? They're saying hi to you, Christina.
Tell them hi.
They're wondering if you're naked. No.
Yeah, I'm just laying here naked. Hi.
Yeah, so we got to finish up this Periscope. He's a Bush. George Bush is his cousin. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny that I hadn't heard that is related to a bush. I don't think it was a setup, but inside GOP job. It doesn't really matter. Does it matter who did it? I don't think it matters. So, did you see the WikiLeaks that Clinton has written into her speeches when she should smile? Yeah, that's another thing that won't make any difference to the election, but it's sort of frightening that somebody has to be told when to smile. Backstabbing matters? Why? Why does it matter? I mean, it's not going to matter for your vote between Clinton and Trump. Nobody cares where it came from. Yeah, I heard it was somebody related to Paul Ryan, but that doesn't mean Paul Ryan knew about it. I've got a feeling, well, actually, maybe Paul Ryan did know about it, and yeah, it's possible. No way to know, really. It's all planned. So you think the GOP sabotaged its own candidate? I'm going to touch on what? Just the fact that it was an inside job. All we know is that it was someone who has worked for Paul Ryan. But probably a lot of people have had associations with Paul Ryan, and they live their own lives too. So you can't necessarily say that means Paul Ryan was behind it. It's hard to rule it out, but I think that it's a leap that isn't supported at this point. Cernovich has proof, then I may be underinformed. I am out of the country, so I'm not following news as much as I normally would. So I was asking around over here if people are worried about Trump, and a gentleman told me today, oh yes, everybody's panicked about him, and I asked why. I said what would be example of what would make people panic, and he mentioned Pussygate, and I thought, really? That's the reason that other countries would be worried. So that just tells you that there's nothing but this huge emotional, thing going on that has nothing to do with any facts. Too orange looking? Me or Trump? Yeah, maybe. I mean, it would make sense on some level, but I don't know. I'd need more evidence. Maybe there's some. I'm in London, back in London today. London is not England. That's what a cab driver told me today. Cab driver said, he asked me, he said, are you here on business or pleasure? And we said, we're here on vacation for pleasure. And he said, what the hell did you come to London for? London is the worst place in the world. I hate frickin' London. London is terrible. I'll go anywhere but London. London's the worst place in the world. So that was what one of the locals told me. He doesn't like the traffic. I mean, if you're a cab driver or taxi driver, I guess, you would hate London because this place is nothing but road construction everywhere. Yeah, I'm not going anyplace adventurous. We're just seeing the usual stuff. Did I see this Slate article about me? Was there a new one? I saw one a while ago. I didn't see anything new. Is there another one? Starbucks on every corner, but they're closed. The Starbucks over here are funny. The first time, I think we've got something free twice because they ran out of half their ingredients. We just got back from the crown jewels. That is literally what we did this afternoon. Just took a look at them. And you know what? After you see about 3 crown jewels, they pretty much all look alike. Guess what? They're gold. It was just a complete waste of time. At least looking at the jewels was a waste of time. I liked looking at the Tower of London. I like the architecture and, feeling the history and all that. But, jewels are jewels. They're not that impressive. B.J. Clinton debate, face crack what? Are you following this?
No, what?
Oh, she's doing her own thing. I didn't know if you were on Periscope.
Instagram.
Okay. So you should be following Christina on Instagram if you're not already. Christina Basham, right? At Christina Basham with nothing in between the names. Switzerland, the food is best. Is it? But seriously, still a landslide? I'm sticking with my prediction. Here's the basis for that. The prediction was never based on logic. It was never based on the candidate's experience. It was never based on their policies. It was never based on any of that. It was based on Trump's power of persuasion. Now, we find him in the deepest hole. I don't know if it's the deepest hole. I think the whole thing with the Khan family might have been an even deeper hole than this. But the mainstream media has really decided that they don't want him president. So things are it's just a whole different ballgame. I've never really seen the media take sides this way before. I suppose they always lean one direction or the other, but now it's there's no pretending anymore. There's no pretense that there's any sense of fairness anymore. What's down 2% today? Don't know what the plans are tonight. So anyway, just finish my thought on the landslide. So Trump is still the best persuader, who's actually the candidate. Clinton has better persuaders, probably, cognitive scientists and stuff. Godzilla, for example. Accuser. Daughter's teacher told her Trump would have more accusers than Cosby. Well, we're still waiting for that, right? Where are all the Trump accusers who said he kissed me and I didn't like it? I mean, they might exist. I'm not saying they don't. I think it's curious that we haven't seen them. So anyway, I'm keeping my 98% chance of a Trump landslide because I think there's a lot more surprises coming. I don't know what they are, but they're coming. I think, for example, there could be something about, Clinton's love of alcohol. There could be something health-related. Could be something in the WikiLeaks. Could be another terror attack. Still a lot of time. There's somebody saying he has more Trump tapes. I would think that if anybody had some worse Trump tapes, that we'd see them. I don't know why they'd save them at this point. It seems like they would just unload at this point. She's a lesbian. I don't think. Do you think it would hurt Clinton's chances if it came out that she was a secret lesbian? I don't think it would make any difference. I think we're past that, aren't we? You think it would make a difference? I don't think it would make any difference. Nobody's going to change their vote because of that. It's 2016, people. Nobody cares. Yeah, fake marriage. I mean, that's all sort of baked in. People just assume their marriage is not a typical marriage. She has the best tapes. Are we past her being a woman? Yeah, I think so. Because I've never heard anybody basing their vote on that. Have you? You're saying that from a California mind. I am. But I just think we're way past that as a country. And people might care for some reason, but I don't think they care. Trump, yeah. An abomination, you say? Based on your religious teachings, I assume? Where did I grow up? Nowhere. Haha. Still waiting to grow up. No, I grew up in upstate New York. My hallucination is noted. Thank you. I won't speak for Christina's political views. She'll have to do that herself. Office Space seems inspired by Dilbert, doesn't it? What if he really is Cheeto Jesus? Good question. Yes, I do miss Snickers. What will I do if Trump wins in a landslide? Or what will I do if he doesn't? Well, as you know, I'm a Gary Johnson supporter now. So it doesn't matter to me whether Clinton or Trump win, except how it affects my taxes. How long was I on the BBC? I hope you're talking about the British Broadcasting Center and not the other BBC. But nice try. Oh, because I'll be the next Nate Silver. Who was her girlfriend? Maybe. But again, I just don't think that stuff's going to matter. You're endorsing Ralph Nader. Was the BBC nice to me? Assuming you're meaning the radio station. Yes, they were very nice to me. Talib says Silver is clueless. I love it when people that smart fight. So Talib and Silver have some kind of a Twitter battle going on. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And I've said this before, but Talib is on the short list of people who, if he disagrees with me, I'll almost instantly change my opinion because he's just smarter than I am. There's no way around that. He's just flat out smarter. So if he disagrees with me, I just change my vote to whatever the hell he said. He's smart but an asshole. That's what everybody says about everybody smart. Unless they just stay in their room and don't talk to people. Would Kanye win if he ran this year? He might. This might be the one year that Kanye could win it all. WikiLeaks is good now? What's that mean? I have 0 speaking engagements on the books. So that should answer your question. I haven't told you what the other BBC is. I'm sure somebody out here will tell you within the next 10 seconds. Is Gary even on the ballot in California? I don't care. I don't vote. I'm just endorsing people who will keep me from getting beaten up in California. And, I don't want anything tarring my reputation. There was your answer in case you're reading it. Yeah, if you Google it, you'll find out everything you need. Does your girlfriend have a sister? She does. 2 of them. Talib drinks with Ukrainians. Moved to Switzerland. It's a very nice place. Poll numbers, can we believe them? I say no. That doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong, but I don't believe that they have credibility anymore. So let me make a clear distinction. Things can be completely accurate and true and fair and have no problems with them and still lack credibility, because credibility is an entirely separate issue. They can be right and you still don't believe they're right. So I would say that any situation in which there are high stakes, certainly presidential race this time has the highest stakes of all, and there's opportunity, you'll always have foul play. So you have both of those conditions. There's certainly opportunity, because they can, as my good friend who is an expert on polling, I showed him one of the polls that was at the ABC poll, the one that's going around on Twitter, I forget which one, that seems to be completely fraudulent, because the person running the poll is literally, consults for the Clinton campaign, or has. And, the poll sample looks crazy and stuff. And my friend, who is a big Clinton supporter, said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. They don't tell you their weighting formula, but that's typical of polls. And I just hear that and I go, what do you mean? They don't tell you what the weighting formula is? If they don't tell you how they weighted the sample, that means they can do anything they want with it. So there's literally no credibility to that poll. And, I'm no expert on the other polls, but I would say that if they have the same condition, which is that, when we know the first condition is true, which is the stakes are very high, then the second condition is, can you do something and get away with it? Totally. Yeah, if you're the people running the poll and you're all Clinton supporters, or at least the few people who control the weighting formula, maybe only a few people in any company who are privy to the actual formula, because these things are trade secrets, right? So if it's a trade secret, you keep it to a few people. So that's the perfect situation for fraud. Really high stakes, lots to gain, and almost no chance of getting caught. So under those situations, there's always fraud. Always. Every fucking time. That's the only thing you can bet on 100% is that when the stakes are high and you can definitely get away with it, there is fraud. Now, that doesn't mean everyone is fraudulent, and it doesn't even mean there's any fraud, because it could be that the numbers actually are the way that the potential fraudsters want them to be. So that's possible. But if they weren't the way they were supposed to be, there would be fraud. So there's really only a way that the numbers could show, and they're going to show in the way they are, actually. I would cheat with those circumstances. Yeah, there you go. That's an honest answer. The Trump burrito, I don't think I'll be making that. Oh my God, you're right. I forgot to feed my dog before I left. I'm going to be coming back to a little pile of bones. No, my dog is being well cared for. The media is dead if Trump wins. Nah, not really. Saudi funding ISIS. All these WikiLeaks that some of you want to be a big deal, they just aren't. Everybody knew that some part of the Saudis were funding ISIS. That doesn't mean it's coming from the top necessarily. And it's also nothing we didn't already know, right? Many people have thanked me for my insight. Well, that will all go away if Trump loses. Isn't it funny that, so this tells you how the world works. So if you were being even slightly objective, you would have to say that my persuasion filter on the election has been tremendously successful. I've gotten a number of things wrong, but the things I got wrong were the things that are the least likely to be predictable. Things that are either short term or there's some little shock that happens that you didn't see coming. But the thought was that over a long period of time, somebody with Trump's persuasion skills could move 20% of the public, and that's all you'd need for a landslide. But this is the strangest year, so those rules are all out the window. Ready for World War III with Russia? Don't see it happening. So just to finish that thought, so although the persuasion filter, my window in the world here, has been tremendously successful, if Trump loses in the finals, half of the world is going to say, "You idiot, you didn't know anything, and you were just guessing, and you guessed wrong." Even though it would be like one of the best predictions of all time, just the fact that he got into the final two and got this close. I'll still be pilloried for not supporting Hillary. It'll be the Hillary pillory. Hillary equals war with Russia? Nah, I doubt it. The last thing that Putin wants is war with America, believe me. Samsung. Oh, here's a interesting thing. So on at least 2 flights over here, because once I got to London, I hopped over to Switzerland and then back. I think it might have been the Swiss Air. No, it was also Virgin Atlantic. I think they said the same thing. So the flight attendants actually gave an announcement, and they said if you have the Samsung, which is 10 or whatever it is, the phone that keeps catching on fire, you're not allowed to turn it on at any time during the flight. How would you like to be Samsung and have an airline saying, don't even turn it on? It's so dangerous, it can't be on an airplane. It's like in the same category as a freaking terrorist, is the Note 7. Yeah. So the 2 things you don't want on an airplane are a terrorist and the Samsung Note 7. Now, I haven't checked Apple stock lately, but if my competitor had just been categorized in the same category as a terrorist, I'd be feeling good about my marketing right now. Do I love Russia? I love the Russians. It's interestingly, there are a lot of Russians working in London, I think, or they're somewhere from Eastern Europe. Yeah, I think you have to stop selling the Samsung when the airlines say you can't even turn them on. Isn't Hillary more violent than Trump? More violent doesn't mean stronger. $18 billion stock loss. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Apple's up 116. Yeah, but people are not rational, so they hear that some Samsung product is melting down, and they're not all going to stop to say, hey, maybe that's just that one model that they don't make anymore. They're far more likely to say, hey, maybe there's some common component like a battery or a circuit or some combination of things that might be in these other ones. Maybe it just takes longer. So I don't think any of that's true, but people are going to think it. Apple is a zombie. Am I worried about the market collapsing? I don't know if worried is the right word, because it's going to happen. So do you worry about things that are going to happen? The only question is when and how badly. But markets go up and down, and every X number of years there's a big dip. So we're probably smarter than we were, but maybe it's maybe we don't have as much room to print money or something. So anyway, I'm not worried about the next financial downfall, because we're getting pretty good at getting ourselves out of it. But it's definitely coming. We just don't know if it's this year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They just always happen. Somebody said, was it a good idea for Trump to refer to his conversation as locker room talk? You know, you would think so, but I saw so many people say, literally, I've been in many locker rooms. I played this sport and I played that sport. I've been in many locker rooms and I've not heard any talk like this in a locker room. Well, guess what? Nobody's heard that in a locker room because nobody talks like that in a locker room. Like that's like the one place you don't talk like that. Like nobody stands around naked with other men talking about sex. It just doesn't happen. So wherever the phrase, locker room talk came up, maybe it happens in like professional sports teams, and probably even then it doesn't happen because they're worried that their teammates are going to narc them out. But in terms of just regular life, people certainly talk like that, men and women. Did you see Carrie Fisher, who knows a thing or two about addiction because she was a famous addict? She's one of the people who says that Trump's sniffing is definitely cocaine. Now, I have no reason to believe that's true, but I also don't know what else causes that sniffing. So, has anybody heard an alternate hypothesis for the sniffing? Has he been asked about that? It's a deviated septum. You're talking to someone who has had a deviated septum. I've actually had surgery to, to fix it. And it didn't cause any sniffing. Joe Navarro said so. Said what? That it's a deviated septum or that it's cocaine. Puts the mic too close to his nose. No, there's actually sniffing. Small nostrils. Here's what I thought it was. The breathing before protracted speaking. Yes, that's what I thought it was. So when he gives a speech, you've noticed that when he gives a speech, he tends to do half sentences and pause and, make a funny face. And so he's got lots of time to breathe. But when you hear him in a debate, he gives long extended sentences so that he controls the time. Because if he stops talking, the moderator is going to, interrupt. So he can't really have a pause. And if you're sort of excited because it's a big moment and you talk too long, you actually run out of air. And then you have to get some new air. Now, it turns out he's probably just not a mouth breather. So he just goes to get enough air. Probably. Navarro said it's a deviated septum. Well, that would make sense in the sense that he would have to breathe more vigorously to get enough air. But I had a deviated septum, and let me tell you what you do when you can't get enough air. You open your mouth, and you go, and you breathe like, most people do. Now, I almost never breathe through my nose because I grew up with a deviated septum. Yeah, what are the odds that someone who doesn't drink or smoke has a problem? I would say the odds are good because people lie, right? So if we're being objective, and it doesn't matter if it's Trump or any other human being in the entire world, people who say they don't do drugs, when they do. I would say that his sniffing didn't look like cocaine to me, but I'm no expert. It did look more like he's just talks too long without a breath, and then he just needs to breathe, and he prefers breathing through his nose because that's healthier, or that's what he always does, or yeah. So I would say there's no evidence for any kind of Carrie Fisher is a Democrat, right? So credibility is very low, even though you'd have to give her this, that she probably is kind of an expert in that area, but that doesn't mean it's the right answer. Yes, as you just said, if he were to do a drug, you'd expect it to be something that was more of an upper. Now, one of the, and by the way, remember, I'm the one who said that you have to wonder about Clinton's drinking, so I think it's fair to say, fair to talk about both of them this way, as long as you say that you're speculating and you don't know, because if we get a president who's on something, that would be important. So, has anybody on here done cocaine? Enough to be familiar with it? So, most of you are anonymous, but all right, let's see how many yeses we get. Who's done cocaine enough to be familiar with it? Nope, 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 yep, yes. Okay, so we have enough people who are familiar. Is it your experience on cocaine? Okay, stop answering that question so when we move to the next question, we'll know what it's about. All right, stop answering. So if you have experience with it, does it make you imagine that you're better than you are? In other words, does it give you an unreasonable level of confidence? The type of thing where you might say, I know more than the generals. Is that something that would be a side effect of cocaine? For 15 minutes? Yes. Yes. So you have a candidate who's sniffing, and Carrie Fisher, who's not credible for this particular question because we imagine she's a Democrat, says it could be that. And you have this curious thing that he does, which he claims he's smarter than the generals and all that. So certainly the signs are there. But remember, my filter on the world is persuasion. And confirmation bias would get you to the same place. All right? So once somebody puts it in your head that that's a possibility, then suddenly all the data starts to look that way. It's like, hey, he once said that thing that just like my friend Bob used to say that when he was on cocaine. And suddenly you just are reminded of things. You know, he sniffed, so you're reminded of people who do cocaine. You know, if he had said he had allergies, you know, you would have been reminded of allergies. But that wasn't the first thing in your head. So here's my take on it. There's absolutely no evidence that he does cocaine. But if you've got it in your head, you can find evidence. You know, that's confirmation bias. That's how it works. Cokeheads do not act the way Trump does. You mean overall, or are you talking about specifically the propensity to think you can do more than you can, to have more confidence than you can? That he was alive during the 80s. Yeah. Say a little on the body language of Trump. Yeah, I just tweeted something about that. So when people said that Clinton won the second debate, first of all, that's ridiculous because I watched the debate and she so didn't win. They're probably grading it in traditional debate grading form, which is, you know, a little bit about the optics, but, you know, they both wore good clothes and nobody was sweating too much. So it didn't seem like there was anything there. They were both put together really well. Their stylists did their job. But Trump's walking around is a classic persuasion method to take dominance in a room. You want to take up as much space as you can, because we're basically animals and we're territorial by nature. It's just built into us. Even though we're human animals, territory still matters. That's why land matters and home ownership matters, and these things are like, you know, just basic in our nature. So the creature, whether it's human or otherwise, who takes up the most space and controls the most space, looks like the dominant one. And if you're trying to pick someone as your leader, the person who looks dominant has a huge advantage psychologically. So Trump's walking around while Hillary sat, and even when he walked around behind her in full view of the camera, that was very much about controlling space. If you told me that was completely accidental and he was just sort of nervously walking around, I would say you don't know anything, because that was absolutely intentional. He was taking as much space on that stage as he could and creating as much contrast between his energy and Clinton sitting on a stool for long periods. Yes, let's talk about the fly. All right, my favorite fly-related joke, and there have been a lot of them, and they're all pretty funny, was one of my Twitter followers called it the fly that God sent. And you know why that's funny, right? Because, I don't know, it's just funny that God would send a fly. Which caused me to tweet that sometimes God sends an army of angels to do his bidding, but sometimes for the small jobs, one fly. That's all you need, just one fly. Yeah, everybody made that flies like shit jokes. I was tempted to make that, but it's too obvious. All right, I'm a professional. I can't do the flies go to shit joke. Yeah, you can do that all you want, but that's just below the professional level. I'm sorry. I don't know if you saw the memes, a photograph of just a dead fly laying on its back. It's just some ordinary fly that's dead, and joking that that's what happened to the fly after it messed with Clinton. Yeah, Bernie had a bird. Yeah, Keck marked her as frog food. Flies retracted garbage. Yeah, those are the obvious jokes. So I don't think the fly is important in any sense, except that it was pretty darn funny. By the way, have you all seen the video where somebody took the audio out of the campaign and edited scenes? So it looks like Trump is singing to Clinton, who's singing back, I had the time of my life. All right, if you haven't seen that video, stop whatever you're doing. Seriously. Let me tell you what the video is. It must be on YouTube. If you Googled, Trump Clinton debate, time of my life, right? Because that's the name of the song, time of my life, and then Trump and Clinton. You're going to see this video where somebody dubbed in the song "I had the time of my life" and put it to clips of the debate. You will laugh until you cry. Swear to God, as soon as you're done with this, cancel your plans because you have 20 minutes of screaming laughter when you see that damn thing. It is frickin' genius. You weren't kidding about your singing. Yeah, it's the worst thing in the world. To do the lift, yeah. Oh, I just realized that's from Dirty Dancing. I hadn't even put that together. What was her 20-second stare? I don't know. You lost your virginity today? Good for you. You liked my singing? I'm sure it's very soothing. People have been telling me my voice is very soothing. Have you noticed that the darker it gets, the more godlike I look with my dark shirt on? Is my head just like floating now? Am I just like a floating head? Did I come? Talk about Clinton smiling when she lies. Does she smile when she lies? I'm not sure I've noticed that. I just figure they're all lying all the time, and sometimes she smiles and sometimes she doesn't. I'm dark like Trump. Oh, linguistic hypnotic analysis of the second debate. Well, I'll point to one thing. You remember I talked about in the very first primary debate when Trump was asked the question about his comments about women, and he immediately brought up Rosie O'Donnell and just took all the energy out of the room and gave you this nice visual to think about that was just stronger than the question, so it just focused over there. And I've talked at length about how clever that was. Well, now he has this new woman problem because of the tape, and sure enough, the question came up, blah, blah, blah. What about those things you said in the tape? And he, first of all, dismissed it as locker room talk, but then he immediately said, but think about the important things in the world, like ISIS chopping off heads and drowning people in cages. And so that was basically the Rosie O'Donnell play. So he didn't just deflect. He deflected to something that was powerful and visual. So it had an emotional connection, and there was a strong visual to it that everybody could go to immediately. So he did a really good job of, the visual is 1,000 times more effective than, this is creepy with me just floating head now. Yeah, the visual is, let me see if I can get a light on here. Apparently I can't. You would be in jail. Yeah, the "you would be in jail" comment is good, primarily because it will be repeated so many times. And that will, I notice you. And just the repetition itself is persuasive. It makes you think of her in jail. Think Bill was pissed? He sure looked pissed. Remember I said right after the tape came out that the Clintons would have the 2 worst weeks of their life? Well, that time has begun. Has the mole gone away? I haven't been watching her tweets lately. I don't know. Dana Bush called him Hitler. Yeah. I think about what he said. Basically, he said, you've broken the law, and I'll hire or we'll get a special prosecutor. Now, to say that that's Hitler, because I'm pretty sure that Hitler didn't, assign a special prosecutor. It's not like the first time we've had one of those. She's in an empty pantsuit. She put the video maker in jail. He goes low, we go high. What do you think of that? It's a nothing. It's a nothing burger. Does Bill want to win? I'm sure. I think he has mixed emotions at most. Yeah, the Trump ad buys. I think he saved all of his money till the end. So my thinking all along was that if he needed it, he would just spend just an enormous amount of money in the last couple of weeks. And guess what? He needs it. So he's going to spend an enormous amount of money toward the end. And commercials shouldn't change anybody's mind, but we know they do. So inventory, what about it? Coming over for a mix? Well, Robert Cialdini has neither confirmed nor denied that he's consulting for Clinton, but that's what you would do. You would neither confirm nor deny. I can neither confirm nor deny that I have consulted for a past president. Networks will block him? I don't think so. I think they'll take his money. I talked about Paul Ryan a little bit. Yeah. The summary for those of you just getting on is that, I realize there's a close connection between Paul Ryan and the people who leaked the audio tape about Trump. But that doesn't mean that Ryan knew it or okayed it. That just means that somebody close to him may have done it. And in fact, if you're someone close to Ryan and you think this would be good for him, you wouldn't ask his permission. Right? How do you know Ryan knew? There's just no way to know. I think it's at least equally likely that the person who did it knew that telling Ryan would be the worst idea in the world for Ryan. Number one, he might stop it. And number two, once he knows it, then the person who told him owns Ryan. Think about it. If the guy who's close to Ryan had shared this with Ryan and gotten his approval, then that guy would own Ryan because he'd have a secret on him. So I just don't think that happened. I also don't think it matters. I think all that matters is that the tape is out there. Somebody's ringing my doorbell, which is weird. You got it? Okay. I think this is the turn down service.
Yeah, we don't need.
Hey, Christina, could you turn on the light?
Thank you so much. Thank you. You too.
Okay. Thank you. There I am. What's a turn down service? Well, let me tell you. When you're in a hotel room, they like to come in at night and, literally like pull down the sheets of your bed and clean up a little bit, and I don't know. But I always turn down the turn down service. Yesterday we turned down the turn down service, and they came anyway. And literally, they turned down our turn down of the turn down service. That actually happened. Now let me explain the turn down service a little more. I like to, when I check into a hotel, arrange all my stuff. Like I put some stuff on a table, and then the toiletries I put in a special place so I know where everything is the next time. And then the turn down service, they come in and they move all your stuff. I don't know why, but they feel like they're helping. So the first hour after turn down service, you just can't find any of your shit and you're just mad. So nothing makes me more angry than their helpfulness. Maybe drop a dense deuce on your forehead, huh? All right, so I think we've done it all. NBC planned to edit Billy Bush end of the tape. Oh my God. Watch your jewels. Bill Clinton's Black Sun story leading on Drudge. Really? But I don't think there's there's no proof of that yet, right? Will the Black Sun affect anything? Well, I'll tell you. I haven't seen the story, so you can tell me here. Is there any DNA? No DNA test? Yeah, that's sort of the end of the story. I did see the pictures, and he does look a lot like him. If you had to guess, you'd say it was his. Son says he was never tested, but he could be, right? I mean, how hard would it be? So here's how this would play out. So right now, without the DNA test, it's sort of a big nothing. It's barely a distraction because this story's been around for a while, right? But if the story becomes bigger, then DNA becomes an issue, and sooner or later somebody's going to offer him money to get tested. Now, he might not want to be tested, because right now he's got this whole I'm Bill Clinton's son thing going on, and he doesn't know, right? I mean, his mother knows, but he doesn't know. He only knows what somebody told him. He wasn't there. So, thanks for reading my book. But let's say there's a DNA test. Here's how this story turns out. If it turns out that Bill Clinton is denying him because he's black, and that's the way it's going to look, it's going to kind of look that way, and he's doing it for political convenience, it's going to be tough to maintain the black vote, at least all of it. So I think the big question is not whether it's his son. That would sort of be no big deal, because we've already discounted the fact that he's had, a number of affairs. I don't think there's anybody on either side who thinks that's not the case. But, yeah, well, you don't know he's a deadbeat dad. Son is begging for tests, wants to know his dad wants. I'll have to read the story, but how hard would it be to get a test? I mean, that would be pretty easy to do. First black president, remember? Oh, yeah. So I think the story here is how he treated him if he knew it was his son. And it would be hard to imagine that his color wasn't important to how he treated him. And I'm not saying that it was important. I'm not saying that he's really related. I'm just saying that that's how people will perceive it. Does Trump have a good enough ground game? I'm not sure it matters this time. I'll be back to California later this week. What must he do to guarantee a win? I think it's all going to have to do with revelations at this point. We're all down to the black swan, the big thing that nobody saw coming. So as I said in the beginning of this Periscope, some of you missed it, that if nothing changes, if events that we've seen are the only events that we hear about between now and Election Day, Clinton wins. But the odds of nothing changing, based on what we've seen for a full year here, it's pretty low. I think the odds of nothing changing are about 0. Would you debate Sam Harris? Of course I would. Do you think she wins short of a black swan? No, I'm saying that the black swan is the only way that Trump could win, but there are probably several swans swimming toward us at this moment. White ones and black ones and every other color. Bentley's Bar in Mayfair. Okay. Clinton was always going to win, so nothing changed. Well, I don't see this future like you do, I guess. Something similar to what happened to Herman Cain. I forget what happened to Herman Cain, but there's lots of stuff that can happen. Watch out for De Niro, yeah. So does Hillary, yeah. I mean, if nothing happened, or they both had the same amount of, scandalous revelations. Actually, we both abstain usually. Scandalous revelations. It's hard to say, who's got more scandalous revelations coming. Yeah, it could have something to do with Huma, but probably not. I don't think there's anything there. Why should Woody win if nothing changes? Well, she's ahead in the polls. By the way, even though I think the polls are understating Trump's support, and even though I think the polls have been fixed, there's now enough of a difference between them on enough of polls that you'd have to say that current situation would be he loses. I don't believe the polls in the sense that the polls could be completely different next week based on events. So the polls are not predictive. God bless you. The polls are not so good at predicting. They kind of tell you what just happened, which is the opposite of predicting. So, when, Dustin says, bless you. Oh, they're all saying that now. You're getting blessed a lot.
Did they sneeze?
They heard me say, God bless you. I think they might have heard you sneeze. She is gorgeous. Yes, she is. Most beautiful woman in the world. I tell her that every day. She really is. It's actually true. Christina is literally the most beautiful woman. That's true. She's shy. But I can say that honestly, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in person. I can only imagine that there might, be someone in another universe somewhere more attractive, but I doubt it. It seems impossible. Don't tell her. All right, so we seem to be onto a whole different category here. Stop this gross shit. Voter fraud. Have you seen it? I think anybody's who has been alive for a while assumes there's some amount of voter fraud some places. We just don't know how much and where. The last question in the debate. Oh, wasn't that interesting? The last question of the debate, when each candidate was asked to say something good about the other. Notice that Clinton couldn't bring herself to say something sort of directly good about Clinton or about Trump, so she talked about his kids. Now, obviously, that could be construed as a compliment for the parents, and he was one of them. But it was sort of just one-off. It was just slightly not quite a direct compliment. And Trump, I was a little bit surprised, but he played it really smart, especially since he was being criticized for the things he said about women. When he talked about Clinton being a fighter, not only did that sound totally honest, Like, I think he actually believes that. That sounded completely honest. Sounded like he thought about it before. Like like he didn't have to work too hard to come up with that answer. It also rang true, meaning that everybody watching it said, "Oh, that's true." No matter what else you say, how much you like her politics or anything else about her, she's definitely a fighter. And I've said similar things. Like, no matter what happens, whether she wins or loses, she is the one who shattered the glass ceiling, even if she loses, because the question of a woman running for president or being president is now done. That's all her, good or bad. She accomplished that. But here's the interesting part. With Trump, there's always a persuasion angle. And when you say somebody is a really hard fighter and they never quit, it's a little bit like what you say to someone who lost, right? If you win, if you watch any tennis tournament, let's say you watch Wimbledon and Roger Federer wins. I'm saying that because I just came from Switzerland. But what's the first thing that the winner says? Wow, my competitor fought hard. This person really, fought it all the way to the end. It was a hard fight. So it's sort of the thing you say to the runner-up. And I thought that was brilliant because the compliment was totally sincere. It was true. I think he meant it. But it just had that interesting, persuasive quality that sounds like what you say to the runner-up. It's a crime that she gets, liberals framed it another way, like you lost. That's a hard thing. That's a hard sell, I think. Yes, it is definitely a self-compliment. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because the other persuasion angle is that he complimented her on the thing that he has more of. All right? So by complimenting Clinton on her fighting, he's legitimized his own fighting. And that's something he needed to do. So whoever made that comment, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, it is a good quality because he has that quality. Why are polls giving her so much ahead? Well, as I said on the BBC, which you'll be able to hear if you listen to the BBC radio NewsHour, if you're on Eastern Standard Time, I think it's 3 p.m. today. There are three possible reasons that the polls are what they are. One is that the polls are fixed. They're just biased a little bit. And I'm sure that that's true for some polls to some degree. It's also true that people are maybe parking their votes, meaning that there's so much heat on being a Trump supporter right now that people are doing what I did, which is you just don't want your brand, your personal brand associated with it. You still might vote for him in the privacy of the voting booth. I don't vote, so I don't have that to worry about. But I think that even when people are polled anonymously, so even if it's an online poll or they call you home and they say, this is anonymous, we just need your answer, I don't think people believe anything's anonymous anymore, right? Because it's not. The government can pretty much listen to anything it wants to. So it just needs a reason. So nothing really feels anonymous anymore. That's a big change from the past. And when things don't feel anonymous, you act as though they're not, right? And admit it. Well, let me put this to a question. Do you feel that if you made a phone call, that you would truly feel protected in your anonymity? Let's say a pollster calls you, and you just answer your home phone, would you feel comfortable in your anonymity? So answer that question. No, 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 no. Yeah, exactly. Maybe not. No, no, no. Right. So there's the answer to your question. If there is such a thing as shy Trump supporters, and there are, right? Probably every one of you knows one of them. You would not answer a poll question honestly. because there's always a chance. There's always a chance that somebody was listening, or they could listen in later, because there's also the belief that literally every conversation is being recorded somewhere. I don't know if that's possible, but there's that thought. Now imagine that Trump got elected and turned into the Hitler that people fear he would. What happens to all the people who voted for him? Right? Maybe the voting booth itself is anonymous still, but what if you answered in a poll that you support him? Right? Are you on a list now? Are you on the Hitler list because you voted for him, and maybe now you're a potential traitor to the country because he turned into Hitler? These are ridiculous thoughts, but remember, I'm talking about persuasion and emotional feelings and all things irrational. So that was your second reason. All right. First reason that the polls just are probably biased to some degree. We don't know how much. It might not be enough to notice, but they're definitely biased a little bit, some of the polls. Two, there's no such thing as anonymity anymore, so anybody answering a poll online or by phone, some percentage of them are just lying because they don't think their answer is anonymous. And then the third thing is polls change a lot, week to week, so you can be up today and down tomorrow. So the polls could be totally accurate as a snapshot of today and be totally inaccurate as a prediction of tomorrow. So polls are not predictive in the way they used to be. Because this race just has too many black swans. If you don't know what that is, that's a Taleb book, The Black Swan, talking about the surprises that nobody sees. Because most swans are white, and a black swan is a very rare event. But the idea is that the rare event, the surprise, is the thing that makes all the difference, and it always does. And there's plenty of rigor to that idea. So there's three reasons that the polls are not telling you what's going to happen in the future. And I think they're all pretty reasonable, actually. Are there rational reasons for voting for Trump? Yeah. For about half a minute, I was endorsing Trump because Clinton's estate tax would tax me effectively 75% of every dollar I earn from now on. There's a longer reason why that's the case, because 50% when I earn it goes to taxes, roughly. But then there would be another 50% or so that would go to the government upon my death. I had a boss years ago whose voting process was this. He would vote against anything that would cost more money. That's it. Didn't matter what it was for. Education, feeding the poor. He would just vote against anything that cost more money. His theory was the government has enough money to do everything it needs to do. And that if you give it more, you're not making the world a better place. You're just giving your money away. So that's actually pretty rational. But because there's no emotion about any policy at all. It's just one simple rule. Don't give the government more money. They have enough. Now, he's not saying take away all the money they have. That would be a little irrational. But he's just saying work with what you got, because every company that has that restriction makes it work. They just figure it out. Kaepernick is starting Sunday. That should be interesting. Still landslide? You're coming in late. But yeah, I'm sticking with the landslide based on persuasion talent and the fact that we got some surprises coming, I'm sure. All right, we're down to a paltry 1.1 thousand people watching this. I've talked too long. The most beautiful woman in the world is waiting for me. Apparently she's not waiting for me. She said, no, take your time. I'm busy. I got stuff to do. All right, I'm going to take off now, and we'll see you guys soon. All right. Bye.